Oh, All That Remains. A band that was probably a meme a couple of years ago whenever, certain statements were uttered by a famous frontman that then was lambasted with all of the hate that you could potentially imagine. But if you can believe it, this band at one point in time was extremely well respected and did very well for themselves. Really, they still are doing that. I shouldn't shortchange this. It's instead just something that now is encountered by a fair amount of hate along the process. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, but here are 5 reasons why people have stated that they hate the band All That Remains. And remember, these aren't my opinions. These are opinions of metalheads or just casual rock fans or music fans all around the world. So let's get started. Number 5, that they are just generic metalcore music. Yes, All That Remains, generic metalcore music. It's hard to imagine that whenever you consider their first couple of records. Really, whenever All That Remains came out of the scene, this was sort of an example or a displacement to Shadow's Fall, considering that's where Phil originally came from. And it was something that was fantastic. Initially, with him starting his own band and getting together with some other peeps, it was a way for metalcore to expand. And that's exactly what happened. Over the course of the first part of the 2000s, metalcore became a really big deal, something that really peaked during the middle to the latter portion of the decade, though really got its rungs and its foots in the rungs during the first part of the decade. And overall, the first couple of albums certainly showcased that metalcore element, but considering it was such a hot property at the time, these are considered to be some fairly respectable albums. However, ever since then, it's certainly been a bit of a shift whenever it comes to the sound, and you'll notice this is something that we talk about quite a bit within the confines of this video. However, to call these albums that started off All That Remains' career as generic is generic of itself. It sounds like somebody who's just simply not a big fan of metalcore in general. Either that, or perhaps has some sort of slight against All That Remains that may have formed a little bit later on into their likening of the band, as opposed to right whenever they listened to it to the very first time. Number 4, they're just a Guitar Hero band. Now, of course, as you remember, there was a song called 6 that All That Remains was able to contribute to Guitar Hero. I believe it was Guitar Hero number 2. Whichever Guitar Hero it was is really null and void, as they fall victim sometimes to the Dragon Force argument. As you remember, Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force was considered this large achievement if you were able to thwart this song whenever you played Guitar Hero, and now All That Remains have that very similar property about them. In fact, they may have had the title first, or at least alongside Dragon Force with the band, with the song 6. Once again, these guys are seen by some as just a band that was able to gain the roots of their popularity and really transcend themselves into superstars of the heavy metal department simply because they were in a game that involved a big guitar and notes that were all color-coded. That's exactly why some people feel that All That Remains gained popularity, because all of the little kids playing Guitar Hero ended up liking the song and bought the record. Well, let me just give you a little piece of advice. That's not stupid. That's called marketing. That's how marketing happens. Sometimes bands market themselves through, page ads in magazines, either that or banner ads on websites. Others are somehow fortunate enough to get their band's song in a game that's all about, guitars and music and playing it, and somehow they gain fans. Unheard of! Because, no gamer in history has ever listened to an album or likes heavy metal or any music in general. All they do is lock themselves in their rooms and, play games all day. And games don't have music either. What a stupid argument. Number 3, it's because they changed their sound. Now, All That Remains easily could have remained comfortable within their trademark metalcore sound throughout the entirety of their career. However, during the latter portion of the 2000s, and especially during the 2010s, the band decided to experiment with their sound and give it a little bit something more, which in actually all intents and purposes was something a little bit less. Based off of a couple of ideas that the band had, they decided to incorporate their metalcore sound to a little bit more of a radio-friendly audience. Family-friendly would have been a little bit of a misnomer and very, very wrong, but in a way, it's kind of something that happened. It also made them into a family-friendly band that could be a group that was listened to or easily bought by, very, very concerned parents that now have heard the songs on the radio or maybe seen them on TV, as opposed to somebody who's just willing to make a blind buy for their children without any sort of question of content or purpose. Either way, these changes were not exactly well received by those who loved their metalcore sound from the early part of the 2000s, and really, especially those that were especially a big fan of what they did with albums such as The Fall of Ideals, or songs such as Six, or things of that variety. It became somewhat of a point of contention whenever they were able to release some of these, new styles of records. It's something that made fans absolutely long for the old school ways of All That Remains. However, that was quickly defeated by number 2, Phil Labonte. Phil Labonte is a man that has gotten some problems with his mouth, and his mouth is not one that necessarily shuts off anytime whenever you have a microphone stuck in front of it. While definitely not somebody that has this problem as much as, say, a Gene Simmons, Ted Nugent, or even a Corey Taylor, although I think with Corey Taylor, they're kind of like mumps, either that or kind of like leprosy, it just kind of doesn't go away. Maybe flea bites could be another great example of that. They just keep on showing up and Phil has definitely got himself in some trouble for a couple of the things that he has decided to declare, which is inclusive to number 1, which is the fact that they transcended metal. This is the statement that definitely got so many people on board with leaving this band's side, and definitely making them a little bit more of a laughingstock, as opposed to being the respectable band that they at one point were, where fans were longing for their albums, waiting for their albums, and could not wait for All That Remains to drop new material. Ever since he stated that they transcended metal and became something a little bit better, something a little bit different, something a little bit this, a little bit that, you automatically now have to place a shroud of doubt with any time that All That Remains releases new product. What is it going to be? Is it going to be a heavy metal type of album? Is it going to be a more radio-friendly metal album? Is it even going to be more alternative? Are there going to be songs here that are kind of more resemblance to the traditional pop metal departments, where they have a little bit of a soft edge to it? Are there going to be more clean singing? All of these questions are now encountered whenever you have the option to listen to a brand new All That Remains album. And as a result, not only has the conscious opinion on the band gone to the toilet, but it's also something where the music itself seems to have suffered as well. 30 years from now, it could be possible that these albums could be reflected upon by mutual ears, ears that have absolutely no idea what they're getting into, and they could be seen as fairly decent achievements. Bands that are trying to showcase a little bit more depth, either that, or try to show that they have multiple sides to their overall sound, things that are traditionally very good. However, here in the current, here in the now, here as it's being released, there are many that are just unwilling to even give these albums, or to give All That Remains, any further chance to really impress, as they already have felt that they have committed the greatest of slight. The greatest of slight being talking poorly about heavy metal, and saying somehow you have Jesus'd your way out of it. Definitely one of the biggest reasons why people hate this band, aside from the sound itself, and it's definitely something that is going to take quite a long road for recovery, because unfortunately, just like elephants, most metalheads do not forget, and forgiveness is very hard. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 5 reasons why people hate All That Remains. If you thought that there are any reasons that were left out, let me know in the comments below, and if you think that you know of a band that needs roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp, and isn't me, that's already been done, you bunch of fucking idiots, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.